Should I go into Palworld? I'll talk about Palworld a little bit. So you play Palworld, and it's basically, okay, here's the elevator pitch. And this is slightly simplifying things. The elevator pitch for Palworld is you take a survival game like Ark, and then you throw in a monster-catching Pokemon system or element, set of mechanics, right? There's monsters out in the world. You can catch them. They're like pets. They can follow you around. They can fight with you. They can power your structures that you build. There'll be bosses and stuff. They'll have like item drops. You can ride them. It's very full, like pretty fleshed out as is at the moment. And that's like, yeah, I mean, there's also the RimWorld thing, which is sort of the middle part of that, which is where you take them and then you use them to assist you around your base and exploit them. That's the joke. It's you're exploiting the Pokemon for labor. And that kind of thing, it's not that crazy. Like, I like the game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. How much time do I have? I was literally playing it earlier this morning. I have about 11 hours in it, and I beat the first boss. I'm up to like base level, I forget. I just got to the point where I can have 2 bases, which is neat. So I set up another one to basically just drop a bunch of pals to be an iron ore farm. And I've don't know, I've been having a good time. It's this okay. So there's something interesting here, I guess, about my tastes, which is that I'm not big into survival games. Like I look at Ark, and Ark has never interested me. It just doesn't, you know. And also, I don't really like Pokemon. I feel like I'm an on-the-record Pokemon hater at this point. That's been well established. I just do not really jive with the games, despite liking a lot of the world and the creature designs and all that. And I think that stuff is cool. I just find the games really just too simple. And just, it doesn't engage me very much. And I've talked about that before when talking about Shin Megami Tensei. Palworld combines 2 things that I'm not very interested in and makes something that I find pretty fun, which I think is kind of neat. It turns out that, like, hey, when you take this premise, which is like, okay, the whole deal with like the whole like loop with the survival gameplay is you go out, you get resources, and then you build more stuff, and then you get more resources, and then you build more stuff, and then maybe you like fight something that's strong, and then you get more resources to build more stuff, and it goes on and on and on, right? And that's like fun. That like might be fun for a little bit, but it turns out that when you add in this extra element of all these fun like kind of creatures to collect, and that there's like a whole management and base building aspect to it, and all these little interactions. Look, maybe it'll wear off after 20 or 30 hours, but honestly, that's good enough for me. It becomes engaging suddenly to me. I really like all of the PAL stuff in this game. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the mechanics are fun and the systems are cool. I like that. You can. There's a bunch of PALs that you can ride as mounts, and they have like different abilities when you're riding on them. And I like that the fire PALs, you can use them as like light sources at night and stuff. I think it's cool that there's items that are specific that like add extra utility to the PALs. One of those being like the saddles, so you can ride the specific ones. You can there's like a fox. There's like a fire fox, right? And you can craft a harness for it, and that lets you use it as a flamethrower, which is like, oh, that's cool. That's creative. There's a penguin PAL, and you can craft a rocket launcher, and you load the penguin into the rocket launcher and you shoot it out, and there's a big explosion that like I think instantly KOs the penguin every time in exchange for like a big blast of damage. Oh, that stuff's fun, you know. You can do the I don't know if you can. I wish there was something that lets you. The one thing that I wish it had, and maybe there is, but I haven't found it or I haven't unlocked it, is traversing water. Like I think if there were more pals that could just be like speed boats or something, like a boat that you could, a boat pal, or that kind of functionality, like, you know, swim in Pokemon. That would be neat. But yeah, I like it having these objectives and this clear kind of like, okay, well, if I don't know what to do or if I don't have a goal right now, because there's a lot of different, I guess, tracks or systems that you can improve or level up in. And there's always kind of like something that you can figure out to do, even if it's just like, okay, level up so I can unlock the next thing to craft and then do stuff with that. I like the base building stuff is fine. It's perfectly acceptable. I like the fact that all the pals have different skills, and you have to pay attention to, okay, well, what kind of facilities do I have around the base? What kind of skills, what pals with what skills do I need to get done what I need to do? Oh, I don't have any of that have like a mining skill. I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to open up another tab. I'm going to open up a tab and I'm going to look up what pals have mining skills. And I'm going to go find one of them. And you get these goals that feel like, oh, I want to do that. I feel motivated. There's an internal motivation for me to do that so I can build like a better base and all that. Are there things that I think the game, obviously, okay, so it's the launch version of a game and it's in early access. It's literally the first thing that comes up when you boot it up. It says, hey, I don't think it says early access. It says like launch or launch early access, something along those lines. So there's going to be a lot more content added down the road. Basically guaranteed at this point because it's done so well. I think it's pretty solid as is, and I'm interested to see what more they would add. I'm assuming like another island, because there's essentially one map with a certain layout, and that's just the layout. That's just the map. Oh, my neck. So maybe just more of those different. I could see a bunch of systems and all that. So one of the neat things is that the pals don't have evolutions. There are like larger forms of certain pals. There's like the little Firefox, and then there's like the bigger one. And I think there's like maybe 2 forms for a lot of them. But they don't like evolve. There's no evolution track for any of the pals. It's just, this is the larger like adult version or like second phase of that pal, which generally has better stats and higher level skills so that they're more efficient at your base and all that. But one thing that means is that the small versions never really stop being. They don't get power crept as much. They always kind of have a use, especially if they have a PAL-specific upgrade, which it seems like a lot of them do. Like, a lot of them have either, like, okay, here's a way that you could turn it into a weapon. They'll have, like, the small versions of PALs have things along those lines. You can turn the Firefox into a flamethrower. You can give the little grass monkey a machine gun. you can kind of there's upgrades, I guess, to let them sort of keep up with their more adult versions, which is neat. What the other thing I like about it is that the joke of the game is, okay, let's take Pokemon And let's imagine, how would Pokemon realistically play out in a world with like exploitative capitalism? How would it play out if you're like, okay, there's all these monsters with powers, and they are stronger than human beings, but not as smart. I'm going to capture them and have them work labor for me. So it has like these kind, and there's like, I haven't gotten to this point, but apparently if you go if you go hunting for like a rare pal to capture or kill, the game will just tell you like you're engaging in illegal activity because, oh shit, that's actually poaching. Which is this little like, it doesn't have any gameplay effect, but just the acknowledgement of, they're not going to stop you, but just the acknowledgement of, oh, hey, like when you go hunt for a rare Pokemon or a shiny or something, yeah, that's like equivalent to poaching. Or the fact that you can capture human NPCs in the Pokeballs, the PAL spheres is what they're called. You can capture humans, and you get a pop-up that says, capturing humans is like illegal in Palworld and ethically frowned upon. We won't stop you, but you should know that like you're doing something that's considered fucked up in Palworld. And it's just this little, hey, in Pokemon they have these Pokeballs that can capture the monsters, right? Well, could you throw a Pokeball at a human being and capture them? And in Palworld, yes, you can, and there are laws about that. And that kind of thing is, and you can just use that, like you can literally, capture a merchant, and now he's just like on your team and can fight with you, and you're kind of forcing him to do it against his will. That kind of thing is I find that funny, and like, okay, there's an idea here. It isn't just like, let's just throw some assets together and call it a day. Like, no, there's like an idea. There's a premise. And it's doing things with it. But it never gets it never like crosses the line from what I can see. There's no point where it crosses into like being kind of like, okay, this is too much, There's no gore. There's technically, visually, there's no death. You do get like drops, and you can collect like, the pal's meat and stuff after you kill them. But the actual animation is just them going boo and just kind of ragdolling, and they have like swirly eyes, like they're KO'd. It isn't like they're fucking dead. Whoa, it's like Pokemon, but you kill them, and there's blood and gore, and isn't this so edgy? Like, it's not like, it's not like that 13-year-old experimenting with dark themes kind of subversive. It's still cute and happy and fun, and you don't have to do anything mean to the pals. I mean, besides like beating them up so you can capture them, which I felt really bad about at first, and I still kind of feel bad about them because you start beating them up and they're like, please, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Please, just get in the ball, and then they get in the ball, and then you like, you summon them back out, and they're like, yeah, I'm just a happy little critter, and I'm like, okay, no, he likes it. He's okay now. Yeah, the game has, I don't know, there's the fast traveling around. I feel like I've explored so much of the game, but I keep finding new stuff, which is neat. Like, oh shit, I've never even been to this whole big island on the side over here, and there's all this stuff, and there's mini bosses around the world, which are like big, either like unique pals that are boss specific or just like sized up versions of existing pals. So there's like there's quite a bit of stuff to do and find and level up, and I don't know, man, like I like it. I like the systems and the mechanics, and it's a fun time. I'm trying to think of other examples of games that have done this sort of blending of genres or concepts. There's definitely like a bunch of them. It's just not coming to mind. Yeah, I don't know why this was the game that everyone got so weird about. Is it just the Nintendo factor? Is it just like the Nintendo swaying out factor? Like, it got really weird to the point where people were like, like ripping the models from Pokemon and Palworld, and they took like the Luxray stand-in, right? The like wolf type Pokemon, and they like were comparing the meshes, and it's like, what? Does it matter that much to you? Like, how anal are you getting? And it's like, yeah, like, wouldn't, like, of course, like, wouldn't the meshes be kind of similar because they're similarly shaped? Like, they're similar looking models because it's literally like a parody of Pokemon. And you say that, and then there's a comment that replies, and it's like, oh, so you're telling me they just made a mesh? You're telling me that they just made a design, a model that was similar to Luxray, and then they just didn't change, they didn't make it their own thing? And it's like, yeah, that's the joke. Like, that's part of it has to look like Pokemon because that's what it's directly parodying. That's the satire. They're taking Pokemon and they're pushing concepts to an extreme for comedy's sake. That's the concept. Like, what is... I don't think it's the end of the world, man. Yeah, so I'm enjoying Palworld. I think it's a good time. It's cool. I like exploring. I like riding around on my pals. Dude, this is just okay. I'm gonna warning. Hater alert. I feel like Pokemon is the worst one at being Pokemon. I feel like every other thing that I've experienced, and I know there's a lot of Pokemon inspired games or games that have kind of similar ideas, and of the ones that I've played, I feel like Pokemon is every other one of them has been way more interesting than Pokemon. And when I say of the ones I've played, I mean Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Palworld. So my opinion doesn't matter. It's just interesting to me that of the two games that I can draw parallels to, one of which people are just calling like a rip-off plagiarism. I'm like, wow, this is just way cooler. Like, I love the integration of all the pals' unique abilities. Like, Pokemon feels so simple. It feels so simple, and it just has, like, when you use a Pokemon's unique ability, it's usually just to cross a roadblock. I feel like a lot of times I played Diamond and I played Emerald, and I didn't like either of them. I felt like every time you're going to use a Pokemon's ability to solve a problem. But it's just like, this is a roadblock. You have to cut the tree down. You have to find a Pokemon and teach it cut. And then you got to use it on the tree to cut it down. And that's it. It could have been, the challenge might as well have been find the key card to open the door kind of thing. It just always felt very, very simple, and like there were no, like, it was barely a mechanic. Like, there were no systems for these mechanics to live in that weren't just the battling, right? They just kind of had so these little like HM uses almost felt like just tiny little add-ons to these mechanics. Like, oh, you got to use surf. We're gonna put water here. You gotta use surf to go over it. But in Palworld, it's like, okay, well, I have this flying type thing. I want to get up to that mountain. I'm gonna craft the the saddle for this, and then I'm gonna use it to fly up to the mountain. It's dark out. But there's a bunch of like dark type Pokemon because they're nocturnal. The dark type Pokemon are nocturnal, and they'll be awake. And they're usually hostile at night. So I want to have I can hold out a torch to light my way, but then I won't be able to use my my spear or my real weapons. So what I'll do is I'll hold my spear, and then I'll just have my like a little fire type Pokemon to be a light source for me. Like that stuff, those like little things mean a lot to me as a player, where I feel like I'm really working alongside my pals. I'm using their abilities in kind of creative ways that the game isn't just directly setting up for me. Like, it isn't just like, okay, here's just the HM check, you know? I like the feeling. I don't know how complex the AI is. The pathing at your base is very simple. It's very simple. And sometimes you do have to help the pals out, and they don't really do what you want them to do. So you got to like literally fling them at like a station to get them to work at it. But there's just like little touches with the ways that the pals react when you have like the one that you have summoned out. It'll kind of like when you look in a direction, it'll look in that direction and start moving there, and you'll start walking. If you jump, they'll jump with you. You start attacking something, they'll attack with you and go into like their whole combat routine. And it's like little, but just the fact that they kind of look and follow your direction, and they aren't just these sort of just like orbiters, you know, like these moons orbiting your character, feels like, oh, I'm on the hunt with my monster companion. It's cool. It's just like a cool little feeling that I feel like, from what I can tell, even looking like, you know, Pokemon doesn't really change that much. I look at the trailer for the new Pokemon, it's like, they're not doing that shit. I mean, what did it take them, like 20 years to add a rideable Pokemon? What? Yeah, like all that stuff is cool. I love the way that the pals are integrated into those systems. Like, that's the thing, is that, you know, you can cry plagiarism, or you can cry like, oh, they're copying this or copying that. You know, oh, it has the UI from Breath of the Wild. It has the big tower from, I forget what game. It's got all these elements that you could be like, that other game did something like that. But like putting all of these things together, like, okay, you know, I take a little issue with people saying that they're like creatively lazy. Like, okay, maybe it's not the most original thing in the world, right? But being able to take these different concepts and these different systems and integrate them together into a game, and it feels as good as I think Palworld does, is really impressive. Like, they worked hard to make that stuff function. If all of these systems were just totally like clearly just hacked together and they didn't gel at all, and they felt very disconnected from each other, and it's like, oh, then it would be okay, they're just ripping off a bunch of stuff, and they didn't, it would be low effort. It would be clearly low effort, but it's not. There was effort put into it to make what I think is a pretty satisfying game. There are some issues. There's a couple issues. Number one, it is a little bit, I think the dungeons are a little bit bare bones. I was talking to someone else the other day who was also playing Palworld, and he brought this up, and I was like, yeah, I can see that. I've done a couple dungeons at this point, and yeah, they're a little flat. It's just kind of like, hey, here, there's like a sequence of rooms, and there's a couple, you know, branching paths, and then at the end there's a big version of a pal with some little versions of it. I think it would be neat to add, I don't know, just flesh them out, you know. I think it'd be cool to like add some puzzles, maybe more unique bosses, some kind of I feel like just an easy thing would be, hey, what if there's a type of collectible or thing that you only get by beating the dungeon? Oh, there's these crystals, you know? There's these crystals, and you can use the crystals as part of some sort of long-term progression system thing. Or they let you craft some kind of special item that's really powerful or something like that, and you can only get them by clearing a dungeon. Just something like that, you know. I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head. Just something to give them a little bit more purpose and a little more motivation to go do them and flesh them out a little bit more. Would be neat. The game also, mind you, it's early access, and despite being pretty stable, I have run into a couple bugs, namely with pals clipping or getting into weird spots. Excuse me. It's only happened like twice, but I had one pal who, at my base, they were both at my base, and it had fallen under. Okay, so I just start getting, because all the pals have a hunger meter, and as long as you have like a feed box on your base, whenever they're hungry, they'll just go to the feed box and you know, and as long as it's kept stocked up, and they'll kind of just do it automatically. They'll just keep the box stocked. They'll just go eat, right? And it kind of takes care of itself, so you don't have to think about it once you've got the feed box. But I noticed, like, okay, I'm getting these notifications. They're like, hey, Fox Sparks, which is one of the Firefoxes. Fox Sparks hasn't eaten in a while. And I look at the hunger bar, and I'm like, where's Fox Sparks? Yeah, okay, let me do something else, you know? It's not a big deal. I'm sure they'll eat something later. And then I notice it keeps getting, every time I go back to my base, it's lower and lower and lower until it's in, like, the 20 to 30% hunger range. And I'm like, okay, why is it not eating? And I'm looking around trying to find it. I'm like, where is it? Until I spot a health bar underneath the ground. And somehow this Fox Sparks had clipped underneath the world geometry and was just stuck and couldn't do anything. And that's why it was slowly just starving. Now, luckily, the fix for that was just to go back to the little beacon you've got set up, which kind of defines where your base is, and that's where you do a couple other things from there. You do your fast travel, and then you've got your whole like PAL box that has this. It's like your PAL storage, and you also define which PALs are actively working at the base, and then I just take the Fox Sparks off of the list, which despawns them, and then I just drop them back onto the list, and then they just spawn in midair in front of me and drop down, and then it's fine, and then it can go eat. So the fix is simple, thankfully, and it's not like, well, I'm just kind of screwed on that. Also had another kind of odd instance where a pal was walking. It was like trying to transport something, and it somehow ended up all the way on top of my house, like on the roof that I'd built, and it just could not find a way back down. So the fix was the exact same thing. It was just weird. I don't even know how you got up there. It'd be some weird calculation of what its height was supposed to be when it was like it walked into my house. I have no clue. Yeah, but I'm having a good time with it. The character creator is very bare bones, but it exists, you know. It's not the most important thing in the world to me. Yeah. Even in its current state, I've been having a lot of fun with it, if that sounds interesting to you. And even if, you know, other survival games haven't really, taken your fancy, kind of like me, I don't know, maybe look into it. The PAL thing might just be interesting enough for you. It's been interesting enough for me. I like it. Yeah, that's it for Palworld. I like it.